Well, we are in week 2 of our series, Wāhine, and we're celebrating the powerhouse woman of the Bible. And listen, one of the reasons why I love the Bible is it doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's not Instagram filtered. It's messy, it's raw, it's real, and it's full of people, it's full of women who are strong, brave, faith-filled Wāhine that God used in powerful ways. Now, I've got a deep respect for women. Very deep respect for women, mostly because I was raised by two of the best. My mum and my nana. My mum and my nana, they raised me. They didn't just raise me, they shaped me. They taught me to serve, to show up, to love people, and to never leave the house without underwear. You never know when you need underwear, right? Because at home you don't need underwear. But when you leave home, make sure you're wearing underwear. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Hopefully you wore your underwear today. Anyway, well, growing up, we always had people over. We had strangers, we had cousins, we had uncles twice removed, you name it. They turned up, I don't know, half of them. Well, one thing I did know is that they always left fed, they always left full and blessed. Every Sunday, my nana would get up before the sun came up to prepare our Sunday lunch for after church. We get home with this big kai after church, and I had the sacred task as the taste tester. That was all my early mornings. My grandmother used to make this Cook Island dish called poke. It's pureed bananas that you bake in the oven with some tapioca starch just to hold it together with sweet coconut cream all over it. And I used to test it every morning. In fact, my wife has asked me to make that for her Mother's Day because apparently I'm one of the best poke makers in the planet, well, especially in my household. Anyway, that's why I had to preface that with in my household because I got some Cook Islanders over there too. So, oh yeah, let's it's a cook off. It's a poke off. Anyway, here's the thing: if leadership is influence, then hospitality was their pulpit. Because here's the thing: leadership is more than just okay. This is what you got to do. It's actually actions. How do we serve one another? And so that's why I was greatly influenced by my family and the way they showed hospitality to other people. So for me, if leadership was influence, then hospitality was their pulpit. But here's the thing. They also made sure that I had men in my life. I had uncles that were awesome and uncles that weren't so awesome. I won't go to those stories. But also they made sure my dad was in my life. And I had this weird relationship with my dad growing up. You guys ever had weird relationships with your dad growing up? Okay, we got a prayer team afterwards. And here's the thing. He'll come to pick me up for the holidays, and I'll do what every strong, brave, mighty warrior would do. I would hide. And not just hide, full on hide, like they're looking for me throughout the whole house. Yeah, Ants, where are you? Well, not Ants, I wouldn't say Ants. Okay, Anthony, where are you? They say my full name. Anthony, where? And then they'll find me. I'm hiding underneath the bed, and then they'll grab my legs, and my mum and my grandmother will go, get your butt in their car. I'll give you something to cry about. Usual, the old school. And I'll be holding on to the bedpost, and I would do all I can. And so I'll end up going on holiday with my dad reluctantly. But here's the thing: I will go reluctantly, but I'll have the best time ever. And then the next holiday we'll roll around, and guess what? The song and dance began all over again, and I'll go through this emotional cardio, but I'll just have the best time ever when I eventually go. So now, why am I telling you this? Because that little family mess shaped a bigger truth. And the bigger truth is this: we need each other. We need each other, which leads me to the title of my message: Better Together. Better together. See, we live in a world that shouts, do it on your own. Be independent. Be strong. Be self-made. But the truth is, you're never meant to do life alone. Some of us are new to this whole church thing, and you're just trying to figure out if I believe what you believe. But that's okay, because we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking to walk together through all of this, because whether you've been here for 10 years or 10 minutes, you matter. You really do matter. But you might feel that you've got nothing to offer. Like your story is too messy. Like your past disqualifies you. But here's the thing, God loves to use broken people to do beautiful things. And the Bible is full of people just like you and me. Just like you and me, which is why I love the Bible. And the power isn't doing things all by yourself. It's in doing life together. Because we're not just talking about independence. We're talking about interdependence. Interdependence. Get that word right. Where your strength lifts someone else up. And someone else's strength has lifted you up. This is what I'm talking about when I say interdependence. It's where your strength lifts someone else up, and like someone else's strength has lifted you up. We need one another. Whanaungatanga, we need one another. And here's the thing. Isolation isn't strength. Isolation is a trap. I can do this on my own. The enemy will do all that he can to get you isolated, to get you to think that you don't need anyone else. All I need is me, myself, and I. He wants to isolate you, get you in a place, and this is where depression comes in. Well, I'm not going anywhere. I just want to stay here, stay where I am. And the enemy wants to feed that. Because for isolation, when you're in isolation, that means the enemy can begin to lie to you. Can begin to lie to you about a whole bunch of things. But here's the thing, not today. Not in this house. Because we weren't made to stand alone. We were made to stand together. We were made to stand together. So I want to talk about one of the most misunderstood passages in the Bible. And I know it's not your go-to Mother's Day Bible verse. It's anything but stay with me, because I think this will give you hope and not a headache. Okay, so you ready for this most misunderstood Bible verse, which is kind of strange for a Mother's Day message, but stay with me. We're going somewhere. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 11. This is what it says. Women should learn quietly and submissively. Wait, wrong verse. Who put this in my notes? This is why I don't allow my kids to play with games on my game. No, okay. Verse 12. I do not let women teach men or have authority over them. Let them listen quietly. Cue to the awkward cough. Wait, was I meant to read that out? Anyway, it's like, yikes, right? Like, where do we get this preacher from? Get this guy out of here. On Mother's Day? What kind of Mother's Day message is it? But please, I am going somewhere with this. Okay, but here's what I've learned. This is what I've learned. If the plain reading doesn't make sense, dig until it does. If the plain reading doesn't make sense, dig until it does. But if the plain reading makes sense, well, then move on. But if it doesn't, dig. Because this is what we know about the Apostle Paul who wrote this. The same guy who wrote this also championed women in leadership. We know that. We know Paul championed women in leadership. In Acts 18, Priscilla taught Apollos. Priscilla taught Apollos. Priscilla was part of Paul's teaching team. So we know Paul had no problem with women teaching men because he had Priscilla part of his team. He commended Phoebe in Romans chapter 16, verse 1. Phoebe was a deacon in Cenchreae. That's what we know about Phoebe. He commended her, a deacon. He commends Junia, who was an apostle, but not just any apostle. She was outstanding amongst the apostles. We find that in Romans 16, verse 7. Then we go to the Old Testament. God raises up a woman by the name of Deborah to lead the nation of Israel. So we know God's got no issue with women in authority. So either Paul is contradicting himself or contradicting the Old Testament, or there's context we're missing. Is there context we're missing? Because let me tell you something. This passage isn't about women being told they can't have leadership. They can't have leadership roles in church. But this passage is about liberation. It really is. And be with me, because here's the thing. Context is everything. Context is everything. Paul is writing to his protege, to Timothy, who's in Ephesus. Now, what do we know about the city of Ephesus? The city of Ephesus was obsessed with Artemis. And so if you can take a look at this picture, have a look at this picture of Artemis. Now see this temple. So if you come to Ephesus, you'll see this giant temple. wherever you are in Ephesus, you can't help but see it. In fact, it was one of the 7 wonders of the world at that time. Arguably the most greatest of them all was the temple of Artemis. It was huge. You can't help but, you walk into Ephesus, that's what's seeing. And so Paul is writing to Timothy in the city. And there we have Artemis. And so there's 2 pictures of Artemis of Ephesus, as she's known as. And there's one there where she's got this, there she was a huntress. She had arrows and darts. In fact, Wonder Woman is based upon Artemis. In fact, so Ephesus was the place where the Amazons came from. Amazons came from Ephesus. And Amazon was a big part of this Artemis belief, this whole thing. And also her Roman name is Diana. So if you know anything about DC Comics, then you know that Wonder Woman's real name is Diana Prince. Right? Any DC fans out there? We'll leave that in the BC. Anyway. So there you go. And then we got the next, this is well-known one of Artemis of Ephesus. See those bulbatures that she's got? Those aren't breasts, by the way, just in case you're wondering. They aren't that, but what they are, they're more likely pouches with magic potions in them. Okay, so this is Artemis. And so Artemis, she was the goddess of childbirth. She was a goddess of celibacy. She was a goddess of wealth and power, okay? And she was worshipped by the powerful and the wealthy. And her priests, these were her priests. Her priests were led by celibate women. So the leaders of Artemis worship were women. Well, not just any woman, they were celibate women. Because Artemis was also a virgin. So this whole idea of being a virgin and staying a virgin was a big part of their belief of Artemis. And her message is autonomy. That's her message, autonomy. Now imagine this. Imagine some of these women encountering Jesus. Imagine having one of these priestesses. Say, are you priestesses? Imagine one of these priestesses becoming a follower of Jesus. Here she is, this rich, powerful woman, right? She's celibate, and she's coming in, and she's bringing with her Artemis context, bringing with her into church. And imagine that, bringing this mindset, and he's bringing it into the church. So now there's this crisis, because this amazing thing was going on in Ephesus. We had Artemis worshippers leaving Artemis, and becoming followers of Jesus. It was incredible. Church was being filled by all these new converts to Christ. But here's this thing. There's a crisis going into church because they're bringing this Artemis mindset into the church. So the Apostle Paul begins to give advice to Timothy. This is what you need to do. So this is what we need to understand something. Paul's not silencing women. He's discipling them. This is what he says. He says, women should learn. That's what he says. Women should learn. Now, in a patriarchal world, that line alone was radical. What do you mean, women learn? Women don't learn. That's the realm of the men. But Paul's like, no. Women learn. This is radical teaching. This is liberating. Then he says this. See, I do not let women teach men or have authority over them. What's this passage about? And what's really interesting is because the Greek word for authority is this very strange word, this very rare word called orthantein. Now, this Greek word orthantein, this is the only time it's used in the entire Bible, and it's even very rare in antiquities, in Greek ancient writing. Even the word orthantein is strange, has many meanings, right? It could also mean murder. And I think if you chuck that in there, I think that's a good idea. Women should not murder men. I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? But it's not your usual word for leadership. It's not a word that you'll use for healthy leadership. But you can use, but it's a word that's used around domineering, a word for self-appointed, for independent control. Exactly what Artemis worship proclaimed and promoted. See, Paul isn't saying, woman, be quiet. He's saying, woman, be discipled. He's saying, hey, guess what? You can become a disciple too. It's not just the realm of the men. It's for you too. It's liberating. You can be free too. He's not creating a universal rule. He's giving pastoral wisdom to a church in crisis. Paul's not anti-woman. He's pro-order, pro-learning, pro-interdependence. He's saying, let them learn. Let them grow. Don't dominate. Collaborate. He said, all right, stop. Collaborate and listen. ICE is back with a brand new edition. Slowly. No, sorry. So I was quoting an ancient rapper from the 1900s. From the 1900s. This ancient rapper called Vanilla Ice. Ice, baby. He says, let them learn. Let them go. Don't dominate, but collaborate and listen. And so when he says, you cannot say collaborate without and listen. Those words are together. Okay, showing my error. Then he says, those born in this century, what is he talking about? It's this ancient song from 30 years ago. Here we go. Where are we? Here we go. Okay, this is what I'm saying. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, here, that's right. Here we go. Verse 13. And then it goes on in verse 13. For God made Adam first, and then afterwards he made Eve. And it was not Adam who was deceived by Satan. The woman was deceived, and sin was the result. I thought I'd just emphasize that point. I'm not sure why I said that like that. Here's the thing. He is not reinforcing hierarchy. He's correcting the story. Because what we're going to know about Ephesus, what we're going to know about Artemis in her context, but Artemis was worshipped as the firstborn, as the preeminent one. In fact, that was one of her titles, the preeminent one, the firstborn, savior. These were her titles. And Paul's coming, he's correcting the story. See, he said, hey, Paul's not saying men rule. He's saying, let's stop the extremes. We're better together. Not independence, not dominance, but interdependence. It's about kingdom. This is what it's about. It's not independence, it's interdependence. We need one another. We're better together. And Paul, he says it again in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 11. He says, but among the Lord's people, women are not independent of men, and men are not independent of women. We're better together. We need one another. We don't need more people trying to outshine each other. We just need more people who show up with a teachable spirit, with faith, with love, with holiness, with their whole life imperfect, available self. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for people to walk together with. And he ends with this in verse 15 of this whole passage. But woman will be saved through childbearing, assuming they continue to live in faith, love, and holiness and modesty. Now, this passage here is disturbing. The reason why this is disturbing is that if you are a woman that have never had a child, you can't help but think, wait a minute, does that mean that I'm not saved? What if has never been my calling? See, here's the thing. Paul is not saying, ladies, this is your place. You need to stay in your place. Right here, giving birth to children. He's not saying that. He's not saying that, or he's not ostracizing women who have never had children. See, this isn't a word of restriction. It's a word of hope, of liberation. Because we're going to understand the Ephesus world. In their world, Artemis was the goddess of childbirth. The goddess of childbirth. If you left Artemis, they believed that you were cursed to die in childbirth, a painful, shameful death. This was their belief. So when Paul writes, woman will be saved through childbearing, he's not saying punished. He's saying protected. He's saying preserved. He's saying covered. Because in Christ, you don't need Artemis to survive childbirth. You don't need a temple. You don't need superstition because you have Jesus. Jesus is all you need. See, this is not limiting women. It's about liberating them. See, God's not calling women to step back. He's calling all of us to step up together. We don't need independence. We need interdependence. Men and women, we are better together. God designed it that way. And listen, We weren't made to stand alone. We were made to stand together. Together. We're better together. So what does this mean for us? It means if you're a woman, God's not He's not sidelining you. He's sending you. You don't have to shrink back to fit someone's bad theology. You don't need Artemis. You don't need to prove your power. You carry God's Spirit. That's your authority. The Spirit of God is your authority. He's equipped you. He's authorized you. He's filled you with the Spirit. If you ever felt disqualified, dismissed, or disrespected, hear this. God sees you. He's called you and He's equipped you. And if you're a man, this isn't your time to back off. It's your time to lift up. See, we don't protect our power by pushing others down. We reflect God's power when we raise others up. That's how we reflect God's power. We reflect God's power by raising others up, not pushing them down, but raising them up. See, this isn't a gender war. It's a kingdom win. A kingdom win. We weren't made to stand alone. We were made to stand together. So maybe you're here and you felt overlooked or disqualified, or maybe you think you've messed up too much, or you've been out of church too long, or life has been hard. Here's the thing. You showed up today. You showed up, and that's where God starts. He starts when you show up. Not with the perfect, but with the present. You don't need to know all the theology. You don't need a platform. You just need a posture. Willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to serve. That's the posture. That's why my mum and my nana was so influential in my life. Because that's what they taught me. That sometimes leadership isn't about being in front, it's about being faithful. It's about being faithful. And the greatest thing that you can teach your children is to be faithful, to love hard, and to serve, and to be a blessing. See, they didn't preach sermons. They didn't lead worship, but they showed up. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. They loved hard and served people. And that's the kind of church we're becoming. A church of people who show up, who lean in, who carry each other, because we're never meant to do this alone. We need each other. Women, men, the young, the old, the church, the unchurched. We weren't made to stand alone. We were made to stand together. And when we come together, something powerful happens. Heaven touches earth, and the ordinary becomes sacred. So this Mother's Day, let's thank the woman who showed up in our lives. Let's honor the people who didn't quit. Let's become the kind of church that says, you don't have to be perfect, just present. Because God can work with that. Come on, church, let us pray.